We are live.
And welcome to Twerking Tuesday Tackle Talk. I am your host, Kelly Bullock, with the Bullock Experience. Sitting beside me is our co-host, is Kevin, K&B Anglers. And then
Howdy,
right
howdy.
below us, our special guest is Lyle Stokes with Catfish Weekly.
How you guys doing?
Settle
How's
down,
it
donkey.
Get us started already, and then ain't even got started to get on the show yet.
There you go. I actually, I'm impressed that we could sit behind before you guys go live and make fun of Chad and Josh and a few other people. Maybe that's.
Yeah.
I don't mind doing it when they're in here, but it's a lot more fun when they can't defend themselves.
All right, Chad's here.
Yeah.
What was that, Lyle?
I was telling them about your singing Hank Williams to me last night, and I had to turn you off.
Yeah. Don't
That's
worry
what makes
about
a
it.
good co-host. That's what makes a good co-host, Kevin, is when they sing Hank Jr. to you.
That autograph that you requested is in the mail.
Thank you so much.
Chad, do I need to get an invoice ready for him?
Yeah, you want to get some invoices ready.
Okay, I'll start mailing the
You're
invoice.
not going to like your invoice that you're going to be getting from me for tonight.
Oh, you mean D? You mean?
Her invoice is probably a lot higher than mine.
Yeah, probably.
Apologies for being late. I literally just got in, scarfed a Mexican pizza, and ran in here.
Dude, after what I did, that's the least issue.
Yeah.
So, but it is what it is. So, shall I start it off?
Go
Kelly?
for it. Go
All
for it.
right. So what we are doing this month, and hopefully everything will go off without a hitch again for the rest of this month, is we are showcasing the different talk shows out there and getting to know, obviously, a little more than what you see on their show. Getting to know the people a little more on the show. So obviously, Catfish Weekly, we wanted it to be the first one we showcased for this month, simply because it is the longest running show out there of the shows that are prevalent at the moment.
So, and we wanted to congratulate you. Part of our catfish community, yeah.
Exactly. And of course, we wanted to congratulate you, Lyle, and of course, Chad, obviously, for having that long-running show and being, a venue for people to be able to go into and talk amongst themselves, learn a little bit of everything, or a lot of things, whatever the case may be, like it was for me there, right in the beginning, and still is to a certain degree. Oh, yeah. And we wanted to, obviously thank you guys for doing that. So, absolutely. With that being said, my first question, and Kelly, I'm pretty sure you've got a question of your own there. So,
yep, I got a few questions. Yep.
Let me just start with, how does it feel, Lyle? If you don't mind me asking, how does it feel to know that you are the longest running show out there? You are the GOAT of shows. How does that feel, buddy?
Well, I appreciate that, and it's a great feeling, because when we started this, we started it as a radio broadcast on YouTube, and nobody knew you could do live video. And I told Paul Ragsdale, he said, "What'd you think?" I said, "I think it'd be awesome if you could go live with video." And then about halfway through the next week, he called me up. He said, "I got it." And that's when we started doing the other stuff that was so much harder to do than what we have now. And as it turned out, I ended up with it, and I've worked with some really good guys over the years, and I really, really enjoyed all of them. And but now I'm set. I feel like that we're coming to the end of my rainbow in this industry as far as broadcasting and stuff. Now, I'm not going to get out tomorrow or the next day or something like that. But I've been working to get people that would follow me up. And And I think I have come up with a couple of really good candidates to do just that. But yeah, I'm extremely proud of from where we started out broadcasting as a radio show, the very first one, to where we're at now, and this is our 8th year. Yeah, it's been a great ride.
So my
Been
question
awesome,
is what got you into doing it in the first place?
Many of you know Paul Ragsdale and I started this, and then we added people to it. And there was another guy, I can't recall his name right off the top of my head right now, but he didn't really have the interest in it. And we wanted to talk about catfishing. And the very first interview was about rod building. And it went from there. And we started talking about catfishing. And one of the things that at the beginning, I wanted to talk about, because we was really big in tournament fishing, was I wanted to discuss tournament stuff. Mm-hmm. And Paul and some of the other guys like, not Doc, the one before Doc, but anyhow, JR and some of them guys, they wanted to do just regular fishing. So that was great. I could do what I wanted to do, and you could give them their part, and they could do what they want. Worked out wonderful. Paul was really good at it because he fished for mostly channel cat in small lakes around his area. And Chris done a little bit of tournament fishing, a little bit of regular fishing, and Chuck Davison was the guy I was trying to think of. Chuck done it all. He done is like me. He done fishing in little tournaments and big tournaments. We would meet up at the big tournaments, and what got us started was really going. I had the bright idea that we would go to Owensboro, Kentucky, to Monsters on the Ohio, and broadcast live from the bait shop there.
The bait shop?
Bait shop.
Not the bait shop.
Bait shop.
And Chris told me, you can't do that. You have to do it at your house. And I said, internet's internet. It does not know if we're going live or not from what location. I said, if we've got a strong internet connection, we should be able to do it. And I called them up, and I said, yeah, we got a great internet connection. And the very first show that we done live was from that bait shop in Owensboro, Kentucky. Nice. And it got to be a yearly thing. We got to doing interviews for 8, 9, 10 hours, sometimes longer at a time with anybody that wanted to do them. I would stay there. I'd get there usually around 11 or 12 and stay there until up into the night till everybody else was leaving. And one time I had told a guy that I would do an interview with his son, and he said, we're going to be late. I'll be there at such and such time. Well, an hour later than the time he's supposed to be, he still hadn't showed up. So I packed stuff up, and I had everything but one box in the car, and they showed up. And we turned around and set back up and was there for another hour and a half.
God.
With people still coming in this. But that's what you do.
Yeah.
You know, we try to run 30 minutes to 45 minutes at a time, and then we shut down, take a break. Of course, I was smoking then, so I couldn't wait to get outside, which I don't now, but it was fun. And the first one went off without a hitch, and we done many after that. And that's why we have so many things on our channel that you can watch. A lot of those are remotes that we done. And we do 5 or 6 of them. We done up until a couple years ago. We done every one of the catfish conferences. Opened them up for them. We was the opening act for the catfish conference for many years.
I know 2019 you were.
Yep.
So, I was me and Pop was one of the ones that's on your show there.
Sure.
And, had a good time. Had a good time doing it. Pop was starstruck. I will say that, and he was just like. I mean, he glowed for hours afterwards, but
we had
Chad, let me ask you this. Chad, let me ask you this. Having come in, wake up, son, wake up. Having come in, doing your own thing, of course, with the bait shop, obviously, and coming into the YouTube world with your own little show, and then. Coming on into Catfish Weekly.
Hold on. Back up. Rephrase. Why we call myself little?
And it gotta be
Your cute little show. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay,
You deserve everything you get tonight, just so you know.
I hear you, son. But no, seriously.
I'll go ahead and write another invoice. I'll go ahead and write another invoice, sir.
So with everything that you had going on, and then of course coming into, or being asked to come in with Lyle on Catfish Weekly, how did that make you feel as far as and what's your feeling as far as talk shows in general?
Well, Lyle was one of the very first shows that I ever watched. Before I had ever met Lyle, and it was one thing. You'd have hundreds of people in chat, and I just thought it was awesome. A buddy of mine had mentioned a few of the shows that were going on. Chris Souders and Catfish Weekly, and I started watching it, and I was like, I gotta get this guy's attention. And he would constantly wear these St. Louis Cardinal shirts on the show. So it took me a minute of saying "Go Cubs, go" in the chat for him to finally notice me a little bit.
I need the delete remove button.
But it's cool because you're like you said. I kind of started the bait shop. The way it was going, there's a show every night of the week. James Dockery had approached me then about it and was like, "Hey, let's do something different. You have Catfish Weekly and James and Kevin and now Muskrat and then this person, and everybody's trying to educate, right? So we did something a little bit different, right? And that's kind of how I got started over there. But it also introduced me to people like Lyle, and we've formed a friendship over the years. I mean, we've been fishing a few times together now, and that sort of thing. And I think we have a lot of like-minded type stuff. We don't agree on everything. I have to reel him in from time to time, but we do good with it, right? And Lyle's a wealth of knowledge of all the years, and I'm fishing not just on Earth, but I've been fishing for a very long time too. But it was different what I did growing up until the last few years, where I started getting into the tournaments and stuff like that. So. We both have some different perspectives on stuff, but we enjoy the discussions. We'll sit sometimes for hours after a show, just talking and stuff. So learn a lot from him. Learned a lot of stuff over the years watching the show, and then I guess to your question, really is knowing that he was potentially going to be looking. I was going, man, what an honor would it be to have this? And then I'm looking at people like Josh Dunnigan. I'm like, man, he'd be a really good co-host too, but I hope he falls and breaks his toe and can't do it. And, all that. But, he finally, he asked me, and it was actually kind of overwhelming. I was very shocked. Like I said, I'm kind of green to a lot of, the boat fishing. I've learned a lot the last, 3 or 4 years that I've been doing it, about 3 years. And I'm still continuing to learn. So knowing that, I was pretty honored that he would take a chance on letting me come in and make fun of him every Monday night.
Well, I will say this, Chad, and we give you all kind of grief about catching all your fish and you taking pictures with it. But I've actually, I've had a chance to see you fish, and you do fairly well. So I'll give you that.
I mean, that's one thing. I mean, that's what got me into watching stuff like Catfish Weekly was to learn, And if you ever stop trying to learn, you won't get better. And that's one thing that is great about these shows. Yeah, we have a lot of fun with it, but the education part, talking about different things, it just means the world to better ourselves as an angler. And that's, thank God for Lyle starting this all these years ago and it continuing it, through now. I don't think many people would be doing this if it wasn't for him. So
I don't think so too.
Legend Lyle Stokes.
The myth, the
even though he's a Cardinals fan. Go Cubs, go.
I am that.
I will say this, speaking on what you were just saying, Chad, to you, Law, one of the things that I have great respect for um, Catfish Weekly and you in general, Law, is the fact that no matter how often you've done this, no matter how many people you've had on your show, whether they be small or big or whatever the case may be, you've always stayed the same person for as long as I've known you, on or off camera. And that within itself taught me to be the same type person on film. You guys, both of you guys have met me. Kelly only through this venue so far, but he and I talk, yep. So you all know that I try to be the same person offline as I am online, and I think that's a lot of that has to do with just watching, you Lyle and others. I mean, Chad, you're the same person offline as you are online. You're just
I'm a little bit nicer. I'm a little bit nicer offline.
You are.
When I'm not online, I'm usually eating or sleeping. So, working.
But
I think that's a huge thing. Be yourself. People can read through phony people.
Right.
It's like watching TV. Most everything you see on TV is scripted. We don't even have we might have notes, the things we want to bring up during the show, but everything we do is off the cuff. There's nothing scripted about it.
It's mostly just the topic.
That's
like
it.
One main topic that's the main point of the show, and that's it, and just wing it from there.
That's right. And if chat changes some of that, so be it.
Yep.
Yeah. It makes for a good show.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
and that's the thing that I always looked at it while doing my previous show before I brought in Kevin in, was I wanted more of the chat to pretty much run the show. But now it's really got to that point now, the chat pretty much helps us run the show.
Oh, yeah.
It's a big part of shows now.
Yep. They're a big part of it.
Well, you can't have a good show without your patrons, the ones that are there to watch and interact with you. And as long as you're interacting with them, as we all do, hey, it makes for a good show. They feel like they're a part of the show rather than just an observer.
And they are.
And they are.
Back when we started, we had Google Hangouts. It was horrible. It really was. It was hard. It took an hour or more to set the shows up. It took that long or longer most of the time at the end of the show to upload everything so that you could put it where it needed to be, especially on podcasts, because truck drivers, I'm telling you, if we don't have that up the next morning, I've got messages coming in. Them guys drive trucks. They want to listen to it because they may or may not have been sleeping during the show, and they can drive down the road and listen to what we do. So that was a big deal, and those podcasts got harder and harder and harder to upload. So that's why we was looking at different programs. I'm so thankful for what we have now, but Google Hangouts was just horrible, and by the time the night was over, you was just like doing a second job. And this stuff with StreamYard and 2 or 3 others now that has come out has made it wonderful for especially the new guys that don't have to try to, because I think Hangouts is one of the reasons a lot of people didn't want to do the shows, because it was such a pain in the butt. I really do.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. Probably because they keep seeing me rub my nose. They want to see if I got boogies up in there. But my allergies are kicking my butt. So I apologize for all this and the that.
Can't leave it alone, can you? I think your brother Brian started that.
I was trying to figure out what he was looking up for.
He's looking up on Google to see how he can get rid of Lyle the quickest so he can take over. That's what it is.
And that's, like I say, that's part of what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
That just goes to show how important chat is in these shows, because those people are paying attention. They're watching.
Yeah.
And they know you're reading it. They know you are. sometimes it gets a little overwhelming where you can't read it all,
Right.
and they have to understand you're going to miss some of them. But they are a big part of the shows these days.
Well, I mean, you look at ours. I mean, right now we've got 29 people in here watching, and chat's a little slow. But if you go back to your show yesterday, you had what 80, 90 something people, 100 something people in there. Chat was flying.
Yeah,
and you can't keep up with it.
No,
it's hard to keep up with it. But that's good of having somebody else there to help you. Is while you're talking, you're doing somebody else is looking at the chat, bringing stuff up, looking at if there's questions, things like that.
Well, so that's why we went to having a limited amount of moderators.
Yep.
And give them instructions on what they're to do and what they're not to do.
Yep.
And let them take care of. So we don't have time for that doing a show. If Chad and I are in a great conversation about catching bait, I don't want to take away from that to read Chad. I want to stay focused on what we're doing. And
absolutely.
And if these guys that make everybody a moderator, that's a status symbol to them. Well, a moderator is a guy that does a job, a thankless job for $0.
Mm-hmm.
So to find a good one that does it like you want it, that's a cool deal.
Oh yeah. It is very true. Kelly, one of the things that we didn't do tonight that we generally will do is we do little shout outs. Speaking of people in the chat, kind of recognize those that are in the chat tonight. We failed to do that right at the beginning, so let's go ahead and do that right quick if we will.
Cool.
Starting off with Nets Vblog 21. That was a new supporter, she says, or they say. I think that was one of your supporters from another.
Yep, that was one of my supporters from Johnny Small Peppers. Big supporter for a lot of the channels. So he came over and shouted us out, shared us out on his community page. So I appreciate him doing that, definitely.
That's awesome. Joe Ziegler, of course, Paul Boyd from P&B Catfishing, Mr. Brian B. Catfishing himself, and I don't know if Sky's still in the house or not, but
probably
our darling Sky playing on her mama's phone.
Always.
Let's see, who else was it? I saw Kentucky Redneck Outdoors, Missing Ed Morgan. Let's see. Who else was it? David
We had
Smith.
Brian B. Catfishing.
Said there. 351 Cleveland was in here or is in here.
David Smith. We've got, let's see.
Of course, Possum Outdoors.
We got Uncle Lou in the house, Mr. Uncle Lou.
I did see Lou there earlier. Lou, thank you for
Pontoon Jody, the Flathead Queen.
McCoo guy.
The cool guy. Lance, the cool guy. Yep, got him.
Got him in there tonight.
Oh, there's that one channel that disappears, comes back every once in a while, fishing with the Chad. Whoever, I mean, he comes in, comes out. Yeah. He hangs around like a bed sore.
Yeah, I'm starting to itch.
AR 1776. I make a cream for that.
AR 1776 was in here. Mr. Parker.
What's going on, AR?
Robin C.
There's Parker Pursuits, Mr. Jerry.
Yeah, Mr. Jerry Parker.
And there's my good friend Nicole is in the house.
Nicole, I saw that. Catfish Bandits.
Hey, I'm back. Yep, she's been away for a little while.
And then there's that other TV or show that comes in every so often that Fields to Water.
Yeah.
So usually all you see is eyeballs, but tonight there was actually some wordage in there.
There's Catfish Bandit Brian. What's going on, Brian?
Yep.
Jay and Jay's in the house.
Yeah. Tim Molina. What's up, Molina?
There's Fin Seeker TV. That's Jeremy. That's my my crappie
your
counterpart.
Buddy.
Yep.
The one that showed you how to crappie fish.
How to crappie fish. We showed everybody how to do a little one-on-one crappie fishing.
That's right. Big Bill's veteran catfishing, of course. Don R. Oh, look, there's Bullock Experience. Haven't seen him in a while.
Wow. Whoever he is. I never heard of him.
I don't know who that is. But hey, we welcome anybody.
Yep.
So
Matt from Wannabe. Avid
Oh,
fisherman.
yeah. Avid, of course.
There's
He said he's here
Sandy
listening while
from
doing
Silver
things around the
Fox
house.
Fishing.
Sandy. All right. Brandon's outdoors. Outdoor adventures, Brandon. So
see that one that fills the water said he's heard of that fishing with the Chad. He's a cool cat.
He's a cool cat. All right. Yeah. I'll take his word for it.
Yeah.
Gene Tillman. Fins and foul.
Yep.
Mad Cat or Cat Fishing. We should be wording.
Gene Tillman.
Yeah, seen Gene. That's about it. We got everything.
We
We
caught up with
have
everybody.
pretty much caught up with everybody in chat right now. So welcome everybody. Appreciate you all coming in and spending a little time with us tonight.
Yep, definitely. Make sure y'all hit that thumbs up. If y'all haven't picked up Catfish Weekly, definitely do that. Like we've been saying, they are the longest running episodic, basically catfish show on YouTube. So definitely something you can learn from them. If you are starting a show or been doing a show for a little while,
you can learn everything.
That's the reason why we have them here, is basically to get into finding out what makes them have the longest running one and what makes it keep on running.
With that being said, Kelly, do you have another question you want to ask right quick, or
you go for it if you got one.
So speaking of being on the longest running show there on YouTube, how do you pick your topics? What I mean, I know we was talking about it, just kind of flows along whenever you get, but how do you pick your topiks? Do you pick it around the people that you have on your show, or do you just pick it in general?
You want to tell them, or you want me to?
I'll let you go.
Okay. For years, I just randomly would pick topics off the top of my head. Or if we had a guest, we would discuss that on what they was comfortable about discussing. But since I got Josh and Chad, it's become a lot easier because they're coming in from a different angle, and I have a lot of ideas that I would have never thought about. Mm-hmm. Like the last two shows. I considered them great, especially last night. It was a ton of fun.
Yes, it was.
I would never that idea. It come off of a movie, Billy Madison. Isn't that what you said?
Yep.
I never watched that movie. I'm not a fan. Not a fan of that guy, so I don't watch very much of his stuff. But Josh sent me a clip, and it was hilarious, you know.
Yeah.
So once they told me and explained to me what we was going to do, I said, yeah, let's do that. And it was a great idea. Great idea. The week before was a great one. So, yeah, those guys come up with ideas that I would have never thought. And Doc used to. Chuck used to come up with ideas that I didn't think of. And that helps. But Chad and Josh, they really come at it from a different angle, more of an entertainment angle, I'm going to say, than educational. We was always about education, but this entertainment thing's working.
Yeah.
Well, I think you could have. I tend to think you could have both with it. For me, it's we'll talk, and I'll throw it out in chat. What ideas do we have? Josh is a very intuitive person and comes up with all kinds of different ideas. He is definitely.
Don't tell
you can tell by looking at him at the side of his head, he's got a brain and a half. And but like Lyle said, we spitball ideas, and sometimes it's we may not have any idea until we get in there that day.
How long are you all discussing this from the show before, like that night after the show was done? Are y'all already talking about the next show, or?
Yeah, I mean, we don't always have, like I said, we don't always have an idea. Sometimes it's a day or two before when we're like, okay, well, let's talk about this. Some things just come to mind, and then you have like the last 2 weeks, like Josh and I kind of playing off of each other, and we were joking about putting Josh's face on and my face on that thing, and then it turned into, well, let's do a show about Mythbusters, right? Busting some myths, talking about myths about catfishing and stuff like that, which then kind of led into us joking around and Josh came up with this idea for the Billy Madison one, and I called it. I was like, the fish cathalon. He's like, I love that, and then they just blossomed. Right? He ran with it. So it's just, I think it's easier than coming up, sometimes by yourself every week, or even maybe having those people to bounce ideas off of is always a great thing.
Absolutely.
You don't want to be complacent and talk about the same thing over and over and over. And, I'm sure Roger was joking around with how many times do we need to see Chad in a week? But I think that plays a part of it too. You're talking about doing the same thing over and over and over. That's why you don't see me jump on a lot of shows anymore. You don't want to overextend yourself and be so run down, right? Where they want to come into your show that you're doing on Thursday night or Monday night or whatever, right? I'm not saying it's bad to jump up and hang out and stuff like that, but to go do a show 3, 4, 5 days a week, every now and then, sure. Every week, every day can be very, very tough.
It takes the novelty away from you. Yep. Therefore, people are not interested.
And it's kind of like how I looked at when I was doing the show before Kevin came on is, we were talking about tackle talk, and it was, and Chad probably can say he saw a lot of it, is getting repetitious over and over and over, asking the same questions to different people, but it's the same thing over and over. You can only do that for so long. And it gets boring, and you start losing people. And I did. And that's the reason why I kind of reached out to Kevin as soon as I saw him, because I've watched Kevin for a long time. I watched him in Pops for years. And
you watch him even closer when he's near you, because
trust me, right now during October, I don't want to be nowhere near the man. No. He's got too many ideas in the back of his head right now. He'd scare the living crap out of you. I don't know.
We opened up our scare house this past Saturday, so I'm still in the Oktoberfest mind frame, and so yeah.
The thing is, we were already talking about it this afternoon while I was on the road for work, and he was on lunch. We were talking about. He's like, "Well, we got this." A couple people stepped away, and we're trying to figure out how to do this. And I'm like, "Well, here's an idea, and here's an idea." He goes, "Well, I got this idea, and I got this idea." So it's like we're bouncing ideas off each other. But it was about his scare house, not the show. But it's just something we can get into, talk about.
And I'm sure you guys are pretty much the same way with that being said. Lyle, I've talked with you over the phone. Chad, I've talked with you over the phone and everything, and in person both, of course. And the fact is that, Chad, you were saying that you and Lyle were like-minded. I think we all are like-minded in some way. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing right now. So the fact that we can sit back and we can kind of, Chad, you and I talked about, when I was talking about doing my tournament, which, by the way, never happened, obviously. But,
trust me, I've got all kinds of tournaments ready that just don't have time for. I understand.
Exactly. So, I was, you and I talked about that. We were able to talk about that as well as, Lyle and I, talked several times and, about different, subjects and for hours. But that's the beauty of it is that, when you get a group of people together, such as ourselves, we can bounce ideas off of each other. And we know that we can comfortably come to each other and bounce these ideas off of each other. And that's what makes the community such a great community, in my opinion, is that there are so many like-minded people out there, whether you're talking about a scare house, whether you're talking about your next show, like Kelly and I'll be talking about our next show, you guys will be talking about your next show, et cetera, so on and so forth, being able to do that just makes for a lot better life. In essence, so.
For years and years, I had a core group of people that wasn't affiliated with the show that I bounced ideas off of. And if they said, no, leave this alone or leave that guy alone, don't put him on your show. If all of them said the same thing, there's a reason why they say it. Yeah. Whether it be about a guest or about a topic or whatever it was. But it's easier now with Chad and Josh than it is to send out all the messages to 4 or 5 guys to get their opinion, because these guys, I trust their opinion.
Right.
I did the others, but
Yeah.
it's easier now.
I got some opinions I want to share with you later. Goes hand in hand with them emojis you sent me earlier. Anyway,
I'm trying to be nice.
Kelly talked about what you was talking about. Was going back to when you was doing the tackle, right? And one thing I think have learned through this process, and I'm still guilty of it from time to time, and that's why sometimes we go stretches without guests, right?
Yeah.
Or you don't have the same guest on every other week, right? Stuff like that. You don't talk about the same stuff. Keeping it new and refreshing is another thing. People come in here to these chats, one, because they enjoy talking with the people in chat, and they want to hear, they kind of form a bond with what they're watching, who they're watching, that sort of thing. So the content, is one thing, the camaraderie is the other, but if you want to keep that fresh, you want to keep that engagement in the chat, keep them talking in the chat, right? That helps, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying with keeping it, just like we were talking about the last 2 weeks. Lyle's like, I've never even heard of this show, this movie, whatever, blah, blah. But putting the two together, just keeping a fresh thumbnail, some fresh topics, not talking about catching bait every week or catching, what's in your tackle box. Sorry, but you're only going to go so far with how much tackles in the tackle box.
Oh, I know.
Especially in the catfishing world. What kind of gear do you use? What kind of mono or braid?
Or braid, yeah.
People get bored with that question. Oh, yeah, right? Absolutely. Is it somewhat important? Yes, if you can explain the why behind it. Yeah. That's where you have it in with the guest, right?
Yeah. Have
them work it in it. This is another thing right here. What we're doing. You've noticed through this whole show, we really haven't stopped communicating and broken, just had a big silence barrier, right? Yeah. That's another thing that keeps them going. Once the stream kind of dies down, there's not much verbiage going on, no communicating. People are like, well, okay, well, I'm going to go see what else is on.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Exactly. So now going into that, how is it important to have a guest or not have a guest on the show? Because I know there for a while, you had a guest there for a while, then you stopped for a little while, and then you kind of picked it back up a little bit. Then it's kind of like off and on. So is it very important to have a guest or not, or just kind of both?
It depends on the guest, for one, and the topics that they want to visit about. Guests are great. One of the things about guests is I have a list of people that I would love to have. They either don't want to do it, don't have the internet service or the phone service or whatever to do it, or Monday nights are bad for them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables with them. You'd be surprised of the people that we've contacted to do shows that do not have an internet connection strong enough to do a show. Even in 2022, there's still, let's face it, a bunch of these guys live out in the boondocks.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Like Chad.
Like Chad.
I wish I lived in the boondocks.
I'll bet you do. But yeah, there's a lot of people that do. They live out in the country and their internet service is as slow as dial-up used to be. And, there's such a floating distance between what you're talking about and when they get it's just crazy. This day and age, there's no reason for that except that they just haven't got caught up with it yet.
As who?
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about before. That's what we were talking about before the show. About internet service and how they're starting to introduce more and more of the faster internet service lines and such as that out in the country. I think once that happens, because I live in the country myself. I mean, I'm not way out in the boondocks, but I'm right outside the county line. I mean, City Line rather, and they're starting to introduce, the cable, or not the cable, but the fiber optic. Thank you. The fiber optics out here, and that's what I'm waiting on, so that my internet service will pick up tremendously. And because otherwise, I'm like tonight, I'm using my hotspot on my phone just to make sure that I don't back, all night long.
Well, when 5G gets everywhere, that's going to make a big difference also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely will.
We don't have it here. We don't have 5G here.
Really?
Well, we got fast internet. Don't need it.
You got like 30 terabyte internet, but you ain't got 5G.
It's within 30 miles of us.
Here's the sad part. Here's the sad part. We got 5G here, but I can walk inside my house and have no service for my phone. None. No service. I literally have to walk outside to talk to anybody.
I just don't think they'll bring it in for 3 or 4 years. There's not enough people who live in Buffalo, Missouri to do all the cost.
Yeah. And that's what they look at. They look at the population too. Definitely.
That's right.
Yeah.
We obviously have a great population because I have 5G, and that's one of the reasons why I can hotspot this tonight, is because I am pulling off my 5G network. But even on a 4G network, it's still a good service. You know what I mean? So, but not everybody has that. Not everybody can afford that. So therefore, you're not able to pull in.
Right.
Just like
but getting back to your original question about guests, I think that the right guest will drag in tons and tons of viewers, but the right topic will too.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's, if you can have now we'll have a guest next week, and who it is, I can't tell you, because Josh has told me about the guy, and I was excited to do a show with him, and Josh is setting all that up. And I think Chad's as excited about it as I am, but it should make for a great show. A guy starting out doing tournaments that was very successful with his very first one. And we're going to talk about that subject.
There you go.
The following week, we'll probably be back on whatever them two can come up with, because, hey, they're 2 for 2.
Because a guest could actually hurt you too, because you could have the wrong topic. You could have the wrong topic, talk about the wrong topic, and
I've had the wrong guest before. It hurt me stung me pretty hard a couple of times. But in those days, people considered us a news source, and it needed to be brought out. And one show in particular, and I don't remember the name of it, and I'm not going to get into it, but Chris and Chuck and I, we had been into it online with a guy, and that was the subject, and it shouldn't have been. I got out of hand. They got out of hand. I got really out of hand.
Somebody sat there going like this.
Didn't have nobody. They just sat there and let me go, and I went, and what we should have done was removed that, but it's still there. I never take stuff down. If it's up there, it got a lot of views, but I needed Chad that night to say, okay, that's enough, Pop. You need to settle down. Them guys, they agreed with me, so they let me roll.
Well, I think everybody needs to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. Regardless, because it shows that we're real. If we showed the good all the time, and that's all we showed, then we'd be better off. We'd be no better off than those that are just reading off of a script. You know what I mean?
Well, here's another thing, Kevin. When we first started that show, Chuck and I would smoke every week during the show. And we was getting to where we was having 75, 80 people watch us an episode. That was unheard of, And I had a friend of mine, he called me up after a show, and he says, man, my little girl wants to know how come you smoke on that show. They're watching us on TV. I didn't realize at the time that you could watch the show on TV. I thought it was all done on a computer. I said, what do you mean? He said, we got you on our big screen, and she wants to know how come you're smoking live on TV. I said, it'll never happen again. And it never did happen again, except for 1 or 2 guests that we didn't catch in time and tell them before the show. But yeah, that was the end of that. When that little girl
Mhm.
said that, we was done with it. And I called Chuck and told him. He said, "I'll never do it again." I said, "Me either." And we both
A lot of
still
people are like
smoked
that.
yeah, we smoked for several years after that. I've been smoke free for 3 years this month. So
It was like the day he met me.
that was enough to run them off. I swear. I think I've had 3 in 3 years. I had one at my great nephew's wedding, and one with his dad on a trip we made and stopped in there. But that's it. And I never had the desire to go back to them. Not at $10 a pack. I don't know how these guys afford them, but if I picked them up, I could go. I could take right off.
I'm paying $7 a pack right now.
What's that?
I said I'm paying $7 a pack, and I had said years ago if it ever got to 5, I'd quit. And here I am.
I said that when I got to 3.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
When I turned 16, you could buy a gallon of gas or a pack of cigarettes, 38 cents. Didn't make no difference.
Right.
I quit the day when I coughed up my first bit of blood after smoking. I quit.
That's
I was
definitely a good
I was
reason to do that.
done.
Yeah,
I was
you're
like,
better
nope,
off.
nope.
You're better off without them.
I started coughing and I went,
I never did understand though why they was always against you. The doctors are always against you for smoking, but it's okay to smoke pot. Never got that. I never understood that.
That's because it coats the lungs and it helps you
I'm
breathe.
sure it does. Yeah, so them cigarettes. But yeah, that's a subject we probably ought to go away from.
Yeah.
Let's start doing this. Here we go.
Well,
Yeah.
honestly, it's really not that bad of a topic because here's the thing: if you talk about that, is it really going to keep people watching it or get rid of people? Because if they see you smoking on a live, do they really think you care about them or what? If there's kids watching or anything else that you're putting a bad example out there?
Well, I don't want to instill that subject on any kid growing up. My grandkids, your grandkids, nothing like that. Just simply because if you can keep them from doing it, you're way better off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that's just my opinion.
It goes back to, we talked about like last night on the show. We talked about tournament ethics, and but we brought up being ambassadors of this sport and stuff, and what we are putting out there for people. And like Lyle said, we have the next generation. You got Flathead Luke and kids like that, Gabby Goose and all these kids that are sitting there with their parents and watching. And do we really want them sitting there watching us drink and smoke? And don't get me wrong, we all do let some bad words slip here and there, but do we want to teach them how to cuss like sailors?
I mean, like with me right now, I've got my 10-year-old daughter watches my show.
All right.
She watches mine. She'll come in and watch Bait Shop with me. She'll come and watch Catfish Weekly sometimes with me. She'll watch my show with me if I'm out fishing. So, and then she's got her little friends watching. So I've got my neighbor kid that's 15, 16-year-old. We got another 10-year-old down the street that watches. I mean, I've got a bunch of little kids. So yeah, and especially mine, I always try to make sure mine is always family friendly because of that reason. I know I've got little kids watching.
And
like I said, I mean,
the same thing going on.
Yeah, we all let things slip here and there.
Oh yeah,
as far
we're
as
human. We're human. We're not perfect.
We're not, but
you and Josh more than me.
I am a saint compared to both of you all. But, just like we were talking about with tournaments and this, I mean, when we're doing fishing live or these shows or putting out videos, trying to show the world, a better way. We have so much negativity and bad things teaching our children and all, and teaching each other. We're all influenced by stuff.
Oh yeah.
That why don't we try to at least do some good things with this? Right?
Yeah.
One of the things that we're really missing out in the fishing industry is Chad's daughter Alyssa. She's not really up to speed on fishing yet. Hopefully she'll get there sometime. But what a wonderful young lady to be around. She's a diamond around a rough edge.
Yeah.
Being her dad. But
Yeah,
if
I knew you were
these
going
ever
with that.
kids, but those are the kids that we're hoping that someday will
Mhm.
take the place on our shows and making regulations that we need instead of the clowns that we got trying to do it now.
I know.
You know, we need kids like Alyssa and like your son Kevin and your child growing up,
Yep.
Kelly. My grandkids, those are the ones that are going to fill our shoes one of these days.
Mm-hmm.
And they may not sing like Hank Williams Jr. like Chad did last night before the show, but if they can make a few of the regulations and know how to talk to the senators or the Department of Conservation heads or whoever it might be, they're better educated by the time they reach 8th grade probably than a lot of us was when we graduated high school. So you get them on to college where they learn to do the stuff that we're not capable of doing and figure out how to get through to these leaders, make a world of difference.
Yep,
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
it does. I mean, being able to, it's one thing to teach our kids by example.
Yeah.
I know my own kid, for instance. I mean, he'll turn 20 this month. On the 15th, he'll be 20 years old. So he's no longer a kid.
No.
But he still learns from me, even at 20. And I noticed, and I noticed that through some of his own actions, interacting with other people. And he's not. And it's. I love the fact that he's a good kid. And that I had a part to do with that. Him being a good kid, and his mama, of course, having a small part to do with that as well.
Yeah. You careful. Careful.
So,
When that camera goes black, there's a hand reaching right across the back of his head.
but seriously though, the thing is that we're not the only ones they're learning from.
No.
They're learning from everything around them, all the media influences that are around them, no matter how much we try to shield them from it, if we, when we can or try. So I'm like, Chad, if we can be that little speck of light, in the darkness that is this world right now, why not be that speck of light? Why not be a whole beam instead of a speck?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, while you was talking about the smoking aspect of it, my buddy Jim Rhodes, he and I were having a conversation, and it didn't really hit home to me so much until I had this conversation with him. You and I had touched base on exactly what you spoke about in one of our conversations. I had remembered that. But Jim was telling me that, whenever I'm out there, when I'm trying to do a live stream, like out on the water trying to do a live stream, he says he doesn't want to come in and see me smoking, smoking and just watching my rods and everything, which I did. I had a habit of doing because I smoke when I'm on my boat. And, he wanted to see, the interaction. He wanted to see maybe me talking a little bit about the tackle that I was using for that particular live stream, or what I was trying to catch, or what I was looking for, or whatever the case. And his very words were, not just you sitting down smoking a cigarette while you're waiting on a fish to hit. And that hit me. That was so true to form in the way that he spoke to me about that I try not to smoke while on camera. Even whenever I'm just filming. Of course, the sad part about that is it seems like all the takedowns come whenever I'm smoking. But so I have to
talking to Jim.
So I have to do some creative editing a lot of times to be able to get that out. But it did hit home with me because his little girl watches everything that I put out, and that's how Jim and I became really good friends, was because he and his family, not just him and his daughter, but he and his family were big fans of K&B Anglers. And he reached out to me. And so that kind of hit home because it really hit home the fact that his kids are watching me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to influence his kids. He's got great kids, in anything other than, what needs to be really learned. Plus the fact that he's a preacher. That kind of said a lot. But again, if we can be that beam of light in the darkness of this world, why not be it?
Oh yeah,
I'm with you.
Absolutely.
And I'll get off on the street this time. Go ahead.
Well, here going on that part is social media. what having the longest running show, how has social media now helped your show grow more?
The fact that I bounce off of 5,000 on my friends list on Facebook all the time, it'll drop 2 or 3, and then I've got a dozen waiting to get in, and I go to the bottom of the list and I check every one of them out before I add them. I really do. I have for years, but I stay right around the 5,000 mark. I didn't know I knew 5,000 people. In fact, I'm not sure that I really do know that many people, but they know who I am. And that in itself keeps you on top of what you put out because of whatever the number you have on your friends list. Every time you post something, a high percentage of those people see it. And we're over 10,000 people, or probably closer to 11, on Catfish Weekly. So whenever I post that, everybody knows what we're doing, when we're doing it, where we're going to do it. And I think that aspect has helped us because I remember the day when, man, I got 200 people following me. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
And then the numbers kept growing. And just to let you know, I wasn't a big fan of Facebook. I didn't have a Facebook account. I have a friend of mine named Keith Atkins that lives between Columbia, Missouri, and he lives out in the boonies. And he said, "You got to have a Facebook account." I said, "No, I don't need that crap." And I woke up one morning and I had a Catfish Weekly Facebook account. And a message he had sent me through email said, "You're set up." I had just had shoulder surgery and I was not able to do anything.
Yeah.
He says, "You're set up, enjoy it." And I thought, I don't think so. And in a matter of a few weeks, I did enjoy it. And with the show still going on every week, it made a big difference to the amount of people that watched it. And I think it still does. I can ask Chad that because he would know as much as anybody, but I think it makes a big difference on the number of people that watches the show.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Now, Chad, now you coming into the picture with Catfish Weekly now, how is being younger and stuff and growing up in the social media age, what is your influence bringing into the Catfish Weekly to push it a lot farther?
Well, I hate social media. When I say that, I hate Facebook. But it's a necessary evil, to be honest with you.
It
to
is.
a point. It's no different than going to some like meet and greets or a cat con and networking with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're networking with your people in chat, stuff like that. It all plays a role using Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or anything that you use, right? It's all a tool to ultimately grow that audience. But it also, as much as we all hate to scroll down through our news feeds and see half the garbage that's on there, it's a way to keep up easily. Back from when Lyle first started all this, and they only had horse and buggy to get the word, through Western Union or whatever it was. To get that data now, it's everywhere and it's in front of us, right?
Yeah.
We open up our phone and we scroll through, but we're able to see some of the newest products people are using. What's going on in the fishing world. It's all at our fingertips, and we can kind of utilize that to our benefit. What people are trending towards, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's live scope or tournament fishing or who has the biggest rattle now or whatever, right? So you can kind of utilize that. Look at your audience, and you kind of get a feel for what's going on, and you can actually build shows off of that. You can see where you want to take some different stuff, mm-hmm. or who maybe is new on the scene that you've never heard of that say, "Hey, I want to get that guy on the show."
Exactly. I agree with that. I mean, I'm constantly scrolling through Facebook. I may not get on Facebook a lot, but when I do get on, I'm scrolling, and I'm looking to see, what topics are out there, just like the whole tournament, fiasco, cheating fiasco that went down. I mean, it's everywhere on social media right now. And from what I understand, it's all across every media outlet out there right now. It's going on worldwide, which it needs to. It needs to be addressed, and everybody's picking up on it and addressing that. But it's when I'm looking through Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or anything of that nature, I'm looking, especially now that I'm co-hosting with Kelly with the show.
I had to pop that one up there. Sorry, I just had to.
But now that I'm actually co-hosting a show with Kelly and everything, I'm constantly looking for those ideas, and I'm sure you guys do the same thing. You're constantly trying to come up with the ideas and brainstorming, and you're doing it based on what's going on in the world at that particular moment in time, whether it be the catfish community or whether it be the world in general. And that's what I use it for.
That's great analogy of what social media is good for. It really is. One of the things that I see in live shows is the lack of people trying to come up with new ideas of their own instead of trying to do something somebody else has done. That
literally was just what I was thinking, right?
They don't try. They just would rather use somebody else's idea and not have to come up with a new. And I hear this all the time. Well, all the good ideas are gone. No, they're not. Look at what we had the last 2 weeks. Nobody ever done them before.
No.
That's what I'm saying. And that's where being imaginative and having a creative mind, comes into play. So going and finding another Adam Sandler movie just to do something of that is not a great idea, right?
Since you're all in that kind of thought right now of the little game show, why don't you just do something like a Catfish Millionaire or something?
Hey,
there is no way you're going to become a Catfish Millionaire. The only way to become a Catfish Millionaire is to start out with at least $2 million.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
But it's
true.
What was the brother and sister that had that show on?
The Anglerholics.
Anglerholics.
Love that stuff.
That was an outstanding show. They put in a lot of time and effort with that. Yep. That was one of the greatest ideas of all times. Another one is the one that Kevin with Palmetto Cats does.
Yes.
Where he asks questions and you go to that app.
The Kahoot stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
It's fun. It's fun.
And it's different. It's not something everybody's doing or talking about every week.
Them two, if I had the time, the energy more than anything, to do that kind of stuff, I would do that because both of those are outstanding things. And I know for a fact that some of these people got a little butt hurt from people sending them messages, negativity. You got to blow that off.
Yep.
If you're not getting negativity, the right people probably ain't watching your show because I get tons of it, always have. And that's okay. I don't care. If you let it bother you, it will eat you alive from the inside. Just pass on it. Do what you're doing. If people are sending you messages saying they like what you do, that's what counts.
Yep. I think that's probably really a good thing to kind of close this out on because Roger's on, and two, I got to go to the bathroom.
Right. Are you pulling the Lost Oaks card? Are you pulling the Lost Oaks card?
Yeah. No,
I'm good.
Not to the age where I wear diapers yet.
You didn't pick them up.
No, talking about that though, you like right now, you've had 30 or so people watching all night long, right? You may have 40 or 50, whatever. If you have people that are generally telling you that they enjoy what you're doing, cater those 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Yeah. Cater to them, right? Yeah. To an extent, right? Those haters, exactly what Lyle says. One, the four of us on here, we're not going to agree on everything, and that's okay. If somebody gets hateful, ignore them, block them out, whatever. If they're giving you constructive feedback, Kelly, your background is just not working for me on a fishing show. Just putting it on there. But that's my opinion. You may love it and it may work for you. I don't care. Take the good feedback from people that actually mean something, and that's the people that are watching your show. You're going to have caterers come in here just to see what you're doing, but they're probably not going to comment other than maybe one negative comment here and there. Take that as a whatever. Listen to the people that are actually watching you and giving you the feedback and what they want to see more of. Okay?
I have a comment. I got a phone call this morning from Chris Lee telling me about Telly catching a near 70-pound blue cat, new personal best for that he caught it on chicken. I said, I don't believe you. And the whole time that we're on the phone, I'm trying to convince him that I don't believe that they caught that on chicken. To be quite honest, I could care less. The fact that Telly caught a fish like that is amazing. Congratulations to her. And I got over on Chris a little bit because at the end of our conversation, I'm thinking he's sitting there going, "What's wrong with this guy?" And I enjoyed it so much. We had a great conversation, but that's an outstanding fish for her to catch. I don't care what she called it.
I told her she text messaged me and D and sent the picture of it and said it was 69.8. And I said,
70 pounds.
Oh, the freaking thing is 70 pounds.
Yes.
It was bouncing. It was bouncing. They called it 69. I was like, I don't care what Chris says. Call that fish 70 pounds.
70 pounds. Exactly. Well, with that being said, y'all, I'm kind of with Chad. I want him to go pee before he bust. And so so what you got, Kelly? Anything else, bud?
Not for this week. I ain't got anything for them, or I think so far, guys. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you guys
It's
so
been
much
a blast
for allowing us
to
come on
definitely
here
have some information on how and why your all show has been so successful all these years. And that goes to helping anybody else that looks at wanting to start a show from here on out.
I've had great co-hosts all these years.
Yeah.
You look back
Pretty
at what
amazing now. I mean,
that's what I'm talking about. I had
He's got
great
the- he's got
co-hosts,
the-
they always kept me in line.
Chad,
he brought
I,
in the looks and then he brought in the brains. That other guy's got the big melon, like freaking watermelon head.
I hate to say it, but this one right here was on there right before you were.
Who, what? Are you pointing to the Nightmare Before Christmas head?
No,
Confused.
the one beside me was here on there before you were. He would have been there. I took him away. I stole him.
I saw where he was on the list. It was right below me. Literally, Lyle had to go through a top 100 list before he even got to me and Kevin's name. So everybody else turned him down, and luckily I slid in at number one.
What happened? It was everybody was turning me
Kevin
down.
was on there too. So
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having us on.
it is.
Thanks, guys, for coming on. I appreciate it and everything. Kelly and I both appreciate you giving your time tonight and
Absolutely
listening to our craziness.
Tell the wives that we're sorry. We'll give you more notice next time.
So
Yes,
you'll get their invoice. Don't worry about
Get their invoices. Yeah,
Sure, I will.
send them to Kevin.
Yeah, just
That's what I missed.
Well, everybody, I appreciate y'all being in the chat with us tonight. Very actually enjoyed watching some of y'all's comments while we've been on here, especially against Chad. And so tune in next week where we will have hopefully another great show. I'm not even going to name the show simply because I want to not make the mistake.
You may reach out to whoever's next week and let them know.
We will. Well, actually, I kind of reached out to the person last night because he kind of asked me last night about it, and I said yes. So
just make sure they agree to it and they know what's going on.
He is confirmed.
Okay. Good. Yeah,
great idea.
I'm just, I literally, well, I ain't gonna, I'm gotta go in there. It was too late to say.
I gotta go. Bye.
I do have to say something. Anybody, if any of you two have anything to say with what's over his right shoulder? Y'all ain't saying anything about that. Everybody else does.
Oh, it's Teddy Bear?
Yeah.
I already know he snuggles
Come on,
every
come on.
night.
You gotta have a comment.
I'll let
You gotta
him
have a comment about it.
He's got clothes on, y'all.
He's got clothes on. He's been naked for like weeks.
I know that Kevin sleeps with Teddy Bear. I've known him long enough to know this about him, so it doesn't really matter.
Keep my crayons in my color
Yep.
books right beside the bed.
Yep.
That way, if I wake up at
And
night,
your helmet.
Every night when Amy Jo says it's time for bed, he throws his crayons down, he grabs his banky and his teddy bear, and he goes to bed.
Now you got her started. All right, everybody, we're going to cut this thing before we get started again. And you all have a great night. And as always, we'll see you next week. And hopefully we'll be all seeing you all on the water.
Yep.
And
And go see Roger and Creel on the Muskrat Adventures. They are live right now.
Yep. Let's go see what they got going on.
Tell them that we sent you and have a little raid going on.
Hey, there you go. All right. Y'all have a great night. And we will see ya.
See
Bye
y'all.
now.
See ya.